Welcome to Pammie's Craft Hut. In this video, we will be making a classy baguette bag crafted with a short handle and rounded base corners. I have made the bag using golden t-shirt yarn with cable knit knot for a soft look and feel. The completed product will measure 25 cm in width, 26 cm in height, and 6 cm in depth. We will start with the handle. Get ready 12 pieces of 240 cm yarn. Gather all the beginning of the yarn and measure 110 cm down and secure all 12 pieces of yarn with a clip. Separate the 12 pieces of yarn into 6 pairs, with 3 pairs on the left and 3 pairs on the right. We will start from the center third and fourth pair. Place the fourth pair over the third pair and thereafter weave it under the second pair and over the first pair. We will leave it out at the side. Next, we move on to the right side. Weave the third pair of yarn over the fifth pair and under the sixth pair. Likewise, leave it out at the side. Now we have 4 pairs. We start by crossing at the center. Hence, place the third pair over the second pair and under the first. Leave it aside. On the right, have it placed over the fourth pair and leave it at the side. Down to 2 pairs in the center. Just have the second pair crossed over the first pair. Now we are having it similar to when we first started, with 3 pairs on the right and 3 pairs on the left. You may want to pull it taut and adjust the yarns in place at every stage as you move along. Now, after working from the center out, the next stage will be repetitive and we will work from outside in all the way to our desired length. Let's start by working on the left. With the leftmost pair, turn it in and place it under the second pair and over the third pair. Leave the yarn at the center. And on the right, turn the rightmost pair inwards and place it over the fifth pair and under the fourth pair. When the center 2 pairs meet, we will place the right pair over the left pair. Now continue this weaving pattern until we reach 22 cm in length. I have completed 22 cm of braiding. Both unbraided ends are now measuring about 100 to 110 cm. Let's start to work on the bag's body next. Leave out the first 2 and last 2 yarns. With the remaining 8 yarns in the center, make the first row of 2 square knots. Then, on the second row, let's make 3 square knots. On the third row, we will be repeating what we have done for the very first row, which is to leave out the first 2 and the last 2 yarns and again make the third row with 2 square knots in the center. As the underside of this golden t-shirt yarn is in yellow, I have to adjust the yarn as I go along. Still on row 3, we will now add on 2 pieces of 200 cm yarn. Using lark's head knot, tie 1 piece each to the leftmost and rightmost yarn. The lark's head knot will be aligning itself to the third and fourth row. On the fourth row, leave out the 2 leftmost and 2 rightmost yarn and make 3 square knots in the center. On the 5th row, make 4 square knots. Still on row 6, we will now add on one piece of 180 cm yarn each to the leftmost and rightmost yarn using last head knot. This knot will align itself to the 6th and 7th row. After tying on the additional yarn, leave out the first 4 and last 4 yarns and make row 6 with 3 square knots in the center. On row 7, leave out the first 2 leftmost and last 2 rightmost yarn and make 4 square knots in between. Lastly, on row 8, make 5 square knots. The reason why I am making these 8 rows in this manner is because I wanted the slant to be more subtle, and also by crafting it in this manner, there will be a gentle arc curve. Following on, get ready 48 pieces of 160 cm yarn. We will make a total of 24 square knots. Have 2 pieces of 160 cm yarn folded into 2. Make a square knot. Pull and adjust to shape. Continue to make 23 others. We will attach the individual square knots to the handle. We will affix 6 square knots to the left and 6 square knots to the right. With every square knot that we are attaching, make a row of alternating square knot on the row below. On the back handle, do also add in the 9th row of square knots. Do the exact same process for the other end of the handle, including the 9 row of square knots from the braided handle and the 12 individual square knots. I have completed my 9 rows of square knots from the end of the braided handle and also attached 6 square knots to each side of the bag's handle. So, to join the bags round, we will just tie a square knot to join them. We will start with cable knit knots next. Have the bag on its side. Identify the center 4 yarns and we will make our first cable knit knot. To make the knot, lift up the center 2 yarns. Have the first and 4th yarns crossed. Bring down the center 2 yarns and wrap around the cross. Next, bring the center 2 yarns forward again through the hole in between them. Pull lightly and adjust. Do the first row with this knot all around. After completing the first row of cable knit knots, we are going to do the second row. Unlike square knots, there's no alternating knots. So to have the cable knots join from column to column, we will have to cross the first and fourth yarns with the neighboring columns. Thereafter, continue to tie the knot. We will make a total of 18 rows of cable knit knots. I've completed my 18 rows. Place the bag flat. On each side, there should be a column of cable knit knot. Have the 4 yarns from this knot tied up lightly. On the flat surface of the bag, there are 16 columns of knots. We will do 4 rows of cable knit knots, but each time we will leave out the first and last column. Hence, there will be a slight bend. Do continue with the 4 rows of knots, with the first row having 16 knots, second row with 14 knots, 12 knots for the third row, and 10 knots for the fourth row. Make sure we do for both front and back of the bag. Here's mine with the last 4 rows lessing out the first and last column at each row, hence creating the rounded base effect. We will now flip the bag inside out. I have placed a box inside the bag to help hold up as we attempt to complete the base. Check that all the yarns are on the outside of the bag. As for the loosely tied corner yarns, untie them and only loosely tie up the 2 center filler yarns. Thereafter, apart from the tied up yarns, all the yarns on the right will have to cross over to the left, and all the yarns on the left will have to cross over to the right. We will have to alternate them, meaning we cross over the left, then the right, and left, then right. We do this for all the yarns. After crossing the yarns from left and right, we will place the 2 filler yarns across too. For the yarns on the right, we will do hitch knots on the 2 filler yarns on the right. And for the yarns on the left, we will also do hitch knots on the 2 leftmost filler yarns. Do ensure you pull them real tight and as close to the cable knit knots as possible. Do the 2 sides of hitch knots across the whole row down. Towards the end, when it is getting too tight to tie the hitch knots, you may make use of a crochet needle to help put through the yarn. After all the hitch knots are tied, we will tie 2 simple overhand knots at both ends of the filler yarns. Thereafter, I will trim the yarns close to the hitch knots. A subtle curve is created. Have the bag flipped over. Perhaps due to the material used. For this side, I've sewn the knots side by side. As compared to the left side, you can see that it is curving outwards if I didn't sew the knots. My preference is to sew the knots, so it will make the bag looking prettier. Hence, with needle and thread, I will do simple stitches just to have the sides of the knots sewn together. Have 4 pieces of 45 cm yarn ready. We will construct the bag's closure. Identify the third cable knit hole down on the 6th and 7th center column. With the help of a crochet needle, I will place through the 4 pieces of yarn. Pull, adjust, and arrange such that you will have 4 center yarns with 12 cm. These 4 center yarns will be your filler yarns. We will make 3 big square knots with the longer yarns at the side. After the 3 square knots, we will poke through the yarns to the inside of the bag. Divide into 2 sets of 4 yarns each. We will place them at the 4th hole down on the 6th and 7th center column. Then, tie simple overhand knots and trim off the rest. Gather another 4 pieces of 45 cm yarn. Measure about 6 cm down and secure it. Make a square knot. Have the long side poked through from the inside of the bag. Column 6 and first cable knit knot. We will do 4 strands braiding, 2 yarns on the left and 2 yarns on the right. Start from the center right. I will place it over the rightmost yarn. And for the center left yarn, I will place it under the leftmost yarn. With 2 yarns in the center, I will place the right over the left. Now, we will work from the outside edge and move inwards all the way in a repetitive process. From the right, place the rightmost yarn under the yarn next to it. And from the left, place the leftmost yarn over the second yarn. Where 2 yarns meet in the center, place the right over the left yarn. Continue the same process till you make about 18 cm. I have done 18 cm. Before we end it, check that the braid is long enough to snugly wrap around the berry knot. If all is good, we will then poke through all the yarns on the 7th column and first cable knit knot. From the inside, make a square knot. With a piece of 50 cm yarn, we will gather all the yarns and make a wing knot. trim the yarns. Congrats! We have completed our baguette bag. Thank you for watching and following through with me. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. Please support me by subscribing to my channel and hitting the bell icon to get notified on my new content. And if you like my videos, please excite me with the like button and also share the video with your friends.